Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending part 3 of the series on focus on healthy function. I'm excited to do this for you. It's been a long process of thinking through all the aspects of what we usually see when people come to see us. Now let's just do a quick mental review of what we've talked about at the past 2 webinars. In webinar 1, we talked about the supportive formulas to adjunct to a person's protocol to support them in regaining their healthy function. We talked about diet formulas to provide the macronutrients. We talked about digestive formulas to help them digest what they're needing to digest to maximize the efficiency of the nutrients that are needed by the body for its energy to do what it is intended to do. We looked at formulas to support the bowel movements for healthy bowel support, in support of the microbiome that is important. That also supports us. Remember, we talked about we are 50% human cells and 50% microbiome. So we're a combination. We also talked about feeding into our genetic strength or our genetic weakness. We looked at whether we were supporting nutritionally the regeneration cells, the stem cells that help us to grow and repair. We looked at the metabolic processes where angiogenesis brings blood supply to the cells for best oxygenation and delivering of nutrients and removal of waste. One thing that we need to remember, a person comes in to see you, and remember what they really want. And we talked about this. They really want to do what they love. In order to do what they love, the body needs to cooperate. The brain needs to have the glucose that it needs for its focus. Remember that the heart, when you function from your heart and decide what you're going to do from a state of love, you generate 5,000 times more energy than the brain. So we are designed to do what we love. The neurological pathways from the heart to the brain are greater. We've talked about that. So here's a person in front of you. They want to do what they love. You've looked at their diet. You've looked at their digestion. You've balanced their microbiome. We've looked at the support of the immune system, the immediate response to things getting across that are causing a strain on the healthy function of the body. And then we are going to look at today, we're going to look at what controls it all and why is that important. So we think about that. We think about the healthy function of the nervous system and the endocrine system. The nervous system controls conscious and subconscious movements with a rapid response to the body's needs. It is initiated by a variety of sensor receptors located throughout the body. And once those receptors are triggered, the brain must immediately respond with information to maintain healthy, balanced state, healthy function. The endocrine system, however, regulates at a slower hormonal response to the body's needs. It maintains homeostasis by using hormones to regulate the rate of chemical reactions in the cells and the transport of substances through the cell membranes that gives the body energy and controls the elimination of waste. Some of these can happen in seconds. Some of them may take days to initiate a biological response. Remember that the hypothalamus is in control, and it communicates with every cell of the body. And in the control system, as we were talking about today, is connected to the nervous system and the endocrine system. So let's look at how do we support that? What do we need to support that? So when we look at the autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system especially, because that is going to be the part that the body initially has a response to by the maintenance of the hypothalamus communicating with the cells and seeing what's happening and what the need is to maintain homeostatic balance or healthy function. Now, SIM is a formula that supports the sympathetic nervous system, but especially because when the sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, it's usually due to a need for glucose. Now, when the glucose drops below normal, the hypothalamus stimulates both the sympathetic nervous system and the endocrine system to increase the glucose levels. Now, when we have a craving and we eat too much sugar, our potassium level drops. And potassium is lost. It moves out of the inside of the cell out to balance the acidic effect that simple sugars have. So there's a need for potassium when there's an initial stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. This formula is a great formula for providing that alkaline mineral that is needed for the initiation of sympathetic nervous system involvement. Usually you take 2 caps after meals. You could also take 3 caps before bed or in the morning, but I would follow the directions on the bottle if you are unsure of how to administer this particular formula, which is used to support the sympathetic nervous system. Now, let's look at vitamin C. Vitamin C is associated with protein synthesis and sympathetic exhaustion, so that when the sympathetic nervous system is getting more exhausted, there is a secretion of water that usually happens from the eyes, the nose, the mouth. This is related to an excess of alkalinity and a calcium and vitamin C deficiency. This is a great formula when the body needs vitamin C to support the healthy function. And vitamin C is a great formula for a lot of things. We talked about vitamin C also helping connective tissue, but in this particular case, we're looking at vitamin C as an adjunct support to the mechanisms of control, especially when there's involvement with the sympathetic nervous system. So usually 2 caps after meals is great, or 3 before bed and 3 in the morning is another way of taking this particular formula. So think about when your body is too wet and those nose are dripping, and it also has bilberry in here, which supports the eyes and the functioning of the eyes. So that's a great formula for that as well. Let's look at NSL. NSL is also a vitamin C formula. Now, the sympathetic stimulation dries the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the blood vessels of mucous membranes. The head constricts. Those vessels are constricted in the head. The pupils dilate. There is a vitamin C deficiency. They're usually too acid in that particular case, and there's a need for vitamin C when they're too dry. So if they're too dry and there's a lot of thick kind of mucus and there's a need for vitamin C, this is a great formula to provide the vitamin C in this particular case. Again, the dose would be 2 caps after meals or 3 before bed or in the morning. Let's look at the heart. Okay, the heart. The heart is very important, as we know, for bringing oxygen to the cells, through the blood, through the hemoglobin. There is a balance of minerals that allows for the healthy heart rhythm that we're looking at: potassium, sodium, and chloride. Now, when there's excess acidity and there's a dilation of the coronary arteries, the heart rate increases, which increases the constriction of the heart and the output. It dilates the bronchioles, it lets more oxygen in, and the heart is now becoming a little bit stressed, trying to maintain healthy function. In this particular case, the heart needs an acid mineral to balance what has been compromised. And chloride is a mineral that the heart uses to be part of the team to regain a healthy heart rhythm. This is a great formula for supporting the cardiac vessels as well. Take 2 capsules after meals for support of that mechanism. You also might notice a reactive response when this particular thing is happening, when the heart is compromised a little bit. Because of the increased bronchial size, things get dry. You might get a little bit of a dry cough. So that's something that you might think about when there's a need for this particular formula. Let's look at RSP, RESP formula. Now, when the body is consuming too much sugar and it's becoming more acidic, the potassium level drops due to the acid going up due to sugar. And there's constriction in the bronchioles. And because there's constriction, there's a buildup of mucus. Things are in the lungs that are accumulating, and things need to get out of the lungs for the regaining of homeostatic or healthy function. This particular formula has expectorant herbs in there and alkaline minerals to help support the healthy function of the respiratory system. Again, take 2 capsules after meals is a good way of taking that particular formula. Let's look at Para. Para formula is a calcium vitamin D formula. When the sympathetic nervous system becomes exhausted, there's usually an increase in water in the eyes and the mouth, increase in alkalinity. There's a decrease in calcium and vitamin C. There's a need for protein. A diet in alkaline minerals, remember, is needed to strengthen the parasympathetic and to relieve the reactive response of the sympathetic. So this is a great formula to support the sympathetic nervous system that's in need of calcium when it's starting to become a little more exhausted. And usually 2 capsules after meals is the best way to take that. The CLM formula, calm formula. So think about when the nerves are firing a lot and they're reaching a point where they need some healthy support. This is a great formula. It's got a lot of magnesium in it, in the herbs, and it helps, again, putting in alkaline minerals. You may see a reactive response of anxiety, or maybe occasional depression, maybe insomnia. They just can't seem to rest well. They're irritable. Maybe muscle weakness, maybe even tremors or memory loss. This is a great formula for feeding nutrition to the nerves. Now let's move into the control system of the endocrine system. So in this particular case, we're looking at the thyroid in support of healthy function of the thyroid, the THY formula. So stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system increases or causes the thyroid to increase metabolism, to increase the rate of force of contraction of the heart. You wanted to bring more oxygen, more blood supply, more nutrients to the cells that are needing extra support. There's a need for calcium, there's a need for protein, there's a need for magnesium. So the thyroxine that's produced from the thyroid acts nearly on every cell of the body to increase the body's sensitivity to adrenaline. Okay, so you may have a reactive response that may be a complaint of neck issues or problems in the shoulders or arms. Well, why could that be? Well, think about the neurological connection to the internal organs. Remember, we learned that all the internal organs are connected to some part of the skin and some muscle group because neurologically we developed that way. So when we're looking at the thyroid and we're looking at the muscles around the neck, the muscles that are in the shoulders, that maybe when they're contracted may put a little extra pressure on the nerve supply and blood supply into the shoulders, you may see a reactive response or discomfort in that particular area of the body because of that. So this is a great formula for providing the needed calcium, protein, and magnesium in support of the healthy function of the thyroid. Let's look at ADR. So we're thinking about now looking at the adrenal glands, the first gland in the body that is stimulated or affected by sympathetic response. So the sympathetic nervous system increases the adrenaline and dopamine, the alertness chemical, because you want to be paying attention to what's going on when the body is starting to have to respond to something in its environment that's creating some kind of stress on the body. And whether that stress is physical, chemical, or emotional, the body responds the same way. So we're looking at an increased constriction of the blood vessels as a result of the blood vessels dilating when that particular part of the body is being compromised. And when the blood vessels are now dilating, the blood pressure drops. And you may have a reactive response of maybe cold hands and cold feet. You're not pushing the blood to the extremities. So you're looking at needing to support the adrenal glands. And this is a great formula to support the adrenal glands. I would recommend what is on the bottle. Also, take 2 capsules at the end of the meal. Another reactive response happens in the middle of the night. With people that fall asleep and wake up and can't go back to sleep, it's usually an indication that the adrenal glands are needing healthy support. The MAL formula, M-A-L, male herbal tonic and enzyme. So now we're looking at the endocrine system in control of the reproductive organs. Now, the MAL formula is a formula that is high in fatty acids and minerals to support the functioning of the male reproductive organs. When that body is lacking fatty acids, because remember, when the body is under stress, first thing it looks for is glucose. Then if it runs out of that because it's running out of the carbohydrates, it resorts to using protein. So that's why there's a deficiency of calcium that we talked about just a few minutes ago. So now we're looking at using fat for energy, and when fat is being used for energy, the fat that it is needed to support the reproductive systems, they don't get what they need, and then there's problems there. And the body can pull fatty acids out of the bone. So a reactive response may occur of a bone aching type feeling or arthritic type of feelings or problems or complaints. So or decrease in libido. So this is a great formula to help men to supply the fatty acids. It also has saw palmetto in there, which is known to help the prostate. Again, take 2 capsules at the end of the meal. FEM, the FEM formula, or female formula as we call it, also provides the lipids for the hormones, for the fatty acids that are needed that come from the lipids. A reactive response in this particular case, again, may be that bone aching type feeling because now the body's pulling fatty acids out of the bone. It could also be a decrease in libido for women, but also it could result in some kind of PMS symptoms because that part of the body that's needing support with healthy function is not getting what it needs, especially fatty acids. ELXR, we sometimes refer to that as elixir. That is a great formula, a general formula for feeding nutrition to the whole endocrine system, for the pituitary, the thyroid, the adrenals, the gonadal tissues. That particular formula is a great formula that you will see a need for when people are just running out of energy. They just can't do it anymore. They've lost their sense of motivation. They're tired. They just need some kind of motivation. They may have occasional constipation. They may have a complaint of stiff joints. So this is a great general formula. Sometimes what happens, they may have a reactive response of a little pain in their calf, because the energy that moves through the body, it moves through the body through the breathing mechanism and the walking pump, which moves the lymph back up the body, which also moves the chi, if you're looking at it from an acupuncture point of view. So sometimes they may get a little cramping in their calf. That's another reactive response that you may notice. And this is a great formula for general support. 2 capsules after meals. Usually I recommend 2 after breakfast and lunch. If you take it after dinner and it's a little bit too much, they may have too much energy. But it's a great formula. Now we're going to talk about the combination formulas and why the combinations formulas were created. And I'm just going to state what's in them, and then we're going to talk about them individually. Now the PTT-NGR, or we call it sometimes Pottinger's or combination A, it's a combination of the RIBS formula that we talked about as a nutritive formula in webinar 1, and the adrenal formula that we had just talked about. It's a combination of both of those. So when we talk about the need for energy, and when the body is running out of energy, remember, it's going to use carbohydrates first, then proteins, then fats. Well, the RIBS formula is high in fats, and it is also, the body has adrenal stress, because remember we talked about the adrenal glands being the first gland to be under stress when the body is trying to regain its healthy balance. So we've combined those two. And we'll talk a little bit more about them in a minute. The FT formula. FT formula is a combination of challenge and ultra BDG, and we're going to go to each individual slides in a minute, so I'm just going to read through this so you know what's in it. The compress, or sometimes people call it campers, it's a combination of SIM and kidney. The traction formula, a combination of para and IVD. The liver spleen formula, the combination of sore ribs, ProNH3, SRB, and HCl. Now the shoulder formula, of course, as you can see, the ribs, the thigh, the circ, and the HCl. And the sleep formula, the SIM, adrenal, and calm, and Neflex, kidney, and URT. So let's look at Pottinger's again. So Pottinger's, again, I'll restate the fact that the body is under stress. It's now using fatty acids for energy, and the adrenals are needing healthy support. So we've combined those into one formula because both of them are usually in effect when the body is needing more fatty acids and the adrenal glands need support. 2 after meals is the best way to take this particular formula. Let's look at combination B, or FT. We talked about ultra BDG as a digestive adjunct formula in webinar 1 for the bloating or distension or gas that occasionally occurs. So you're trying to break things down, but also there is a challenge powder that we talked about for helping provide fiber for cleaning the colon. So this is a great combination of both of those. The Ultra BDG has a lot of cellulase in there. Sometimes there's an overgrowth of yeast, and there's other things in the colon that don't belong that need the extra support to get things out. This is a great adjunct formula. If you just want to do a general colon cleanse, you would take 2 at the end of the meal. CMPRS. This is a formula that's the combination of the SIM formula and the KDY formula, or the kidney formula. So think about this. When people eat a lot of sugar, remember they lose their alkaline minerals, and there's a need for potassium. And that is the SIM formula that we talked about to support the healthy function of the sympathetic nervous system when it's initially stimulated. Also, when people eat a lot of sugar, it puts an extra load on the kidney. So we combine those to support the kidney in conjunction with supporting the sympathetic nervous system. And usually 2 after meals is a great way to take this. You can also take 3 before bed and 3 in the morning. That's another way of doing that, because when the sympathetic nervous system is initiated and the body or the brain can't shut down, sometimes they have trouble falling asleep. So that's another reactive response for the need for the SIM formula that we talked about. The TRCTN or traction formula. This is a combination, as I stated, of the IVD formula, which is a formula to provide protein that we talked about in webinar 1, phosphorus-based protein for structure support. And also it's a combination of that in the PARA, the para formula, for also support of the sympathetic nervous system when it's becoming exhausted and it needs calcium. Well, this combination of the calcium, the vitamin D, a protein from the IVD, if you're wanting to support structure, for example, if there was a fractured bone and the body was needing the extra protein and vitamin D and calcium, this is a great formula, and it works well with the TRMA formula that we talked about when we talked about the immune supportive formulas last time, the protease, because protease is needed to digest proteins that maybe are accumulating in an injured area that need to be cleaned up. This is a great formula to be used together, traction and TRMA. Again, follow the directions on the bottle. Now we're going to look at the what's called the LVR SPL formula. This is a combination formula of good protein, the ProNH3 that we talked about as a nutritive support formula. It also has PSOR, sore ribs formula, which is a fatty acid nutritive formula, and it also has SRB, which is a stabilized complex carbohydrate formula. It also has some enzymes in there to make sure it's digested, because remember, the body is always looking for energy and it gets it from macronutrients. This is a great formula to take when you just need that extra macronutrient. You can add it. You can take it any time of the day. You can add it to a meal if you don't think you're getting enough of the good complex macronutrients. So this is a great formula for that. The SHLDR or shoulder formula. So this is a combination of the SERC formula, the thyroid formula, the THY formula, the RBS formula. So because of all those organs or glands that are in that area, because of their neurological connection to the brachial nerve plexus and the muscle groups in that area, there can be a contraction of those muscle groups, which puts a compromise on the blood supply and the nerve supply going through the shoulders, into the arms, into the hands. So let's say a person is complaining of a reactive response in that particular area of the body, and they have done all the body work, massage or chiropractic that they need, but yet they're still not responding. there could be a deficiency in the nutrients needed to feed those particular systems that are now resulting in muscle contraction and biomechanical compromise. So taking 4 capsules anytime, as a bottle recommends, is a great adjunct formula for providing nutrition that's allowing for a muscle contraction pattern that's creating a reactive response. SLP formula. SLP, you could say it stands for sleep. It's a combination of the SIM formula, the adrenal formula, and the CLM formula, the calm formula. So we look at someone that maybe can't fall asleep. Maybe they wake up and can't go back to sleep. Maybe their nerves are so fried that they just can't hold it together. They're just anxious and the nerves are just on edge and they need nutritional healthy support. This is a great formula. You could take 3 before bed. Also, this formula is a great formula for your type A personality people that just can't move out of sympathetic dominance and drop into the parasympathetic, which is the rest, repair, relaxation part of the control system of the body. So this one can be recommended as 2 after meals. With those kinds of people, you never want to call it sleep. We would call it SLP because they think that they're going to fall asleep, but they're not. But what it's going to do is going to feed the systems that are not being fed, that are not being able to meet their normal demand. So when the body comes time to go to sleep, they can't shut it down. So that's a great formula for that. KNFLX. This is a combination of the kidney formula, the KDY formula, and also the URT formula. This formula will support the healthy function of the kidney and the urinary tract. Because it has the URT in it, it has lipotropic herbs in there. So let's say there's things forming in the kidney because there's a combination of fat and calcium that starts to form some kind of a stone formation. This particular formula will help to the body to use its nutrients to go after those particular growing stones. This is a great formula for that. It's a great formula just to help the kidney function and the lining of the urinary tract. So take 2 capsules between meals is a good time to take it, or any time there's an extra need. Remember, healthy function is coordinated by the body's control systems to maintain homeostasis. Next webinar, we're going to talk about the lymphatic system and a review of healthy function support. Please watch for that particular webinar to go out. Thank you. Hello, everyone. After the last 2 webinars, it became apparent to us that more people are watching these webinars on demand. So this webinar today is done on demand, and the following one will be done that way as well. So because of that, you're going to have to email me your questions, and I'd be glad to answer them. Email them to drdepalma@loomisenzymes.com, and I'll be glad to get back to you. We can also set up a time where we can speak on the phone if you prefer it that way. In the future, in the near future, anytime you'd like. In fact, we can do live face-to-face discussions on Teams. So let me know if you prefer that as well. Again, thank you, and I look forward to being with you again on the next on-demand webinar for part 4 of support of healthy function. So thank you again.